folks, welcome back to Crypto Simplified. We have another very special person on this channel today. Please put your hands together for Andrei from the channel 1 Minute Economics. Andrei, the floor is yours. You can tell the Crypto Simplified family what you're all about, and welcome to the channel.
First of all, thank you a lot for having me on, and thank you guys for listening. Maybe some of you know me as the 1 Minute Economics guy from my YouTube channel, and I'm basically a person who kind of made a name for himself as a balanced economist. Like I was never really happy with the way in which economics was being taught. So initially as an experiment, I said, okay, let me make a few animations. And strangely enough, people liked them and they wanted to hear more. And they said, hey, make a video about this, make a video about that. And before I knew it, the channel turned into something greater than myself, actually. Like I've been receiving exposure all over the place. I've been on MSN. I've been on television in Holland, in Croatia. Like, if you would have told me this in 2015 when I started the channel, I would have said it's ridiculous because I never really expected things to take off in any meaningful way. I mean, it's not like an economist is a good candidate for being a rock star or anything like that. So, but I am happy because my number one goal in my professional life is this: telling people that there's no escaping economic decisions. Like, of course, people have families, they have jobs, they have lives, whatever. But we make economic decisions even when we don't realize that we're making economic decisions. So I feel personally that you might as well spend a minute, in my case with my format, to learn the basics, to get more financially literate. And with my new book, about which I'm going to be talking today, I've kind of taken things to the next level a bit.
So yeah, that leads us on quite nicely. You've sent me your book, I had a look at it, and it's a really, really fantastic read. From someone who has been interested in economics for a fair bit of time, I still found it really useful because you're putting objectivity and like detaching yourself from the emotion of the situation over everything. And being a cryptocurrency channel, we always talk about FOMO. FOMO is sort of what gets the cryptocurrency market going, but yet it is the bane of our existence. So could you tell us a bit more about that, a bit more about your rounded approach?
Yeah, well, as much as I've made a name for myself as this balanced economist, never before in my career have I been so worried like today. And what I tell people is this: like, I'm not the average person who says that, oh my God, the sky is falling, let's all panic. No, but I would assert that when someone like myself panics, it makes sense to at least pay attention to the things I have to say. So what I've done is I've written The Age of Anomaly. It's this, it's a huge book. Like right off the bat, it's a huge 400 plus page book. But what I promise to people, just like with my YouTube channel, is that when reading the book, it's not going to be like this arrogant economist is talking down from his ivory tower on you. No, it's going to be like you have a friend who's talking to you, a friend who just so happens to be good at economics. And essentially, when this video is going to be published, so during the August 6th to August 12th week, I'm going to have a big promo push, which means that one, the book's always going to be cheap and affordable, but this week, like if you buy it until Sunday, the 12th of August, it's going to cost just 99 cents, which is, it's as close to free as they'll let me price it. And also two, once again, if you buy it this week, you might as well head over to my 1 Minute Economics channel as well, because I got a bunch of sponsors on board. I have a huge contest going on, actually, with crypto-friendly prizes, actually. The first prize is 1 Bitcoin, the second prize is 1 Ether and 1 Litecoin. I have hardware wallets from Trezor. I have like a bunch of really cool prizes that especially crypto guys are going to like. So why am I doing this? Like, it's not exactly, there's not exactly a ton of money in writing 400-page books and selling them for $1, But I guess what's kind of keeping me going with this is the idea, it's part altruistic, part selfish, because the altruistic dimension is I've been at rock bottom in life, and I don't want people to, get destroyed by what I think is coming. And I just want to help. The selfish dimension of it is, of course, that I don't want to feel guilty, because by being the 1 Minute Economics guy, there comes a bit of responsibility with this, because a lot of people look to me as the economist dude on YouTube, and I don't want to have this burden on me that after the next financial crisis starts, for example, I don't want to say, okay, I've had these fears, I didn't voice them, I didn't tell anyone about them, and now I feel guilty because so many lives were ruined and I didn't try to do anything to stop it. So basically, for this reason, I'm throwing my book out there, sending my message to everyone who cares to listen, organizing a contest around it, doing basically everything I can in my power to generate awareness for my message, because this is the battle I'm fighting in my career right now. I think of it as a battle for people's minds. And, with so many distractions out there, with just so much misinformation and awful economic knowledge on the internet and everywhere else, it's a fight where you have to think outside the box. So I'm all over YouTube, I'm on podcasts, I'm doing basically everything I know how to do from a marketing perspective to get people to listen.
Thanks. And I think your perspective is actually highly appreciated, because as someone who doesn't like reading a lot of economic books, yours is very approachable. It put a lot of the concepts in a nice, easily digestible form. And for a lot of people who aren't what we call financially literate, I think this is a must-read book, because it really shows the importance of diversification, of actually understanding what you're getting involved in. Like, you start your whole book by talking about all these crises that we've had and just explaining in detail the events that led up to them becoming full-blown bubbles and also what led to them popping. So it's really great with the level of understanding you're actually passing on to people. So what sort of research did you do into this? Like, how did you reach these conclusions? Because they seem to be a lot of events that have taken over a very long space of time.
This is always my top priority. Like, taking good, well-researched information and putting it out there in a way that's actually usable for people. Because many of my peers, many economists, this is the number one mistake they make. The things they're doing don't work. They write boring books. They write books where, they lose their audience. You, as an economist, you don't make videos or write books because you want to seem smart. You make them because you do these things because you want them to work. And for them to work, you have to connect to your reader. You have to understand that your reader is not someone who reads economics related stuff all day. And this is what you have to work with. So in my book, I keep things very logical. As you've pointed out, I start by analyzing a ton of case studies, from the first recorded asset bubble, which is the tulip mania that peaked in 1636 to 1637, so a long, long time ago, to more recent events, including popular ones like the dot-com bubble or the Great Recession, or even lesser-known ones like the short domain mania of 2015 to 2016. I think I'm the only economist on this planet who studied it. And basically, by doing all of these things, my intention is not telling people, okay, let's look at the past so we can predict the future. No, I don't think history repeats itself, but I think it rhymes. So we look at the past to kind of get a glimpse into human nature, to understand what makes us tick, why we sometimes get overly euphoric, why we then sometimes go into full-fledged panic modes. Again, something people in the crypto world are all too familiar with. And by having this meaningful understanding of human nature, we're going to draw parallels, we're going to figure out what the conclusions are, and how you can use that information to increase the likelihood that you're going to spot the next financial crisis early on. And also, there's one more dimension, number 2, which is, look, no matter how hard you try, even I'm a guy who thinks about these things all day due to the nature of his occupation, but even I have to have the humility it takes to understand that the next crash might take me by surprise as well. You just never know. So it makes sense to dedicate just as much time and energy to becoming more financially resilient in general, to knowing what you're investing in, why you're investing in, to have this information deeply ingrained essentially into your subconscious, because knowledge is power and knowledge is clarity. When everyone else around you is panicking, because most people have no idea what they're doing, so they just invest in a manic depressive mode. When everyone around you is panicking, if you have meaningful knowledge, and if you have the mindset it takes to do well, then no, you're not going to bottom sell your portfolio, and on the contrary, you're going to take advantage of the various opportunities that are going to be out there. And it's not rocket science. I keep things simple, I keep things logical, and I focus on things that people can actually do, things that work.
Great, thank you. So, since you mentioned the tulip bubble at the start of that, and since it's a criticism that's often thrown at the cryptocurrency investors, saying that this is a lot like the tulip bubble, what are your thoughts on that?
The number one thing I tell people about crypto, and this is from the perspective of someone who trades crypto on on 17 exchanges, from South Korea all the way to European ones, exchanges in the US and so on. when you're investing in crypto, you had better know what you're getting yourself into, because so many people are surprised when they see that, oh, look, the price crashed from 20,000 to our recent low for 2018 of 5,700, 5,800, depending on where you're tracking. And they're essentially surprised because Bitcoin has done the exact same thing Bitcoin has done all along. Like, I'm a bit of a history buff, and when it comes to Bitcoin, let me remind everyone that the boom and bust cycle is essentially very exacerbated in this world. Like, I think in June or July of 2011, when Bitcoin famously went from $1 to $31 and then collapsed and stabilized at $2 before stabilizing at $2. And you can find this on YouTube if you search for 2011 Mt. Gox crash. It essentially even traded on Mt. Gox for a couple of minutes for a cent. Then, of course, we had the situation in 2013. We had that aggressive, boom and ultimately bust. And it's just the way things go. And in my book, I make it clear that this is nothing new. When investing in technology-related stuff in general, so because I think the Bitcoin phenomenon and the crypto phenomenon in general is closer to the idea of our behavior when investing in technology stuff than to something like the tulip mania. Like, whether we're talking about the dot-com bubble or whether we're talking about the railway manias in the 1800s in the United Kingdom, we tend to get carried away when investing in new and hot stuff, which means essentially that even more so than with other assets, it's just the way it works. When things are going well and when we see so much potential out there, we go crazy and bet the farm on them. Whereas when people start to panic, there's a vicious circle that ensues that exacerbates this panic, and it leads to aggressive boom and bust situations like we have with Bitcoin. So what I tell people is this: if you're not willing to accept this, if you're not willing to accept that for something as new as cryptocurrencies, there's a very aggressive price discovery mechanism in the markets, and it can be very volatile. It can be brutal at times. If you cannot understand this, then there's little I can do for you. And even more so, we need to never lose sight of the fact that for all the right reasons, crypto is here to stay. Like, I remember doing business in Romania 10, 15 years ago, back when PayPal didn't want to accept us, and back when it was so hard for me to essentially get paid for the things I was offering. And people need to never lose sight of the fact that, it's so awesome that you have this decentralized option at your disposal. Nobody cares that you're from Romania or that you're from India or the United States or Mexico. It doesn't matter. You can use it. Nobody can ban you. And this freedom is essentially something people need to never lose sight of. Is crypto perfect? No. Is it true that with additional freedom comes greater responsibility, like keeping your wallet safe or knowing which exchanges to use? Of course, that's on you. But never lose sight of the fact that crypto is here to stay. And if you're someone, I'm preaching, of course, to the choir here, but this is what I tell people who aren't into crypto either. Like, you owe it to yourself. If you're tech savvy enough to be able to at least use your phone, then you owe it to yourself to learn a bit more about crypto and try to have even a small exposure to the crypto world. Even if only so that your grandchildren don't make fun of you 50 years from now from being there and not doing anything. So even if only for that reason.
Right. Folks, let me repeat what Andrei just said. Do your research. Research is everything in this space. And if you read Andrei's book, I highly recommend you do. The link is in the description to the purchase pages, so please check it out. But I highly recommend the case studies. So you're going to read the case studies right at the beginning. They all have such similar means that brought them about. So it's all about actually familiarizing yourself and not overstretching. And I highly recommend you read the book to get all the details about all these things, because even if you think that you've been around the block a few times and you do know about economics, it's always helpful to have a refresher. And this is a very succinct refresher that's put across in a very methodical way. This is exactly how you should be looking at these markets. So Andrei, in conclusion, do you have any message for the cryptocurrency family? Any words of warning? Any words of support? They'd like to hear from you. So what do you have for them?
My main message for people today is this. Like, no matter what it is you do for a living, my main goal is getting you guys to understand that for reasons I outline in the book, and which I invite you to research yourself as well, as you've mentioned, we are in for a generation-defining big reset. I do believe that the age of, oh, we have a market crash, but don't worry, central banks and governments have it all under control, that age might be a thing of the past sooner rather than later for many complex reasons. So my goal is this. You have the great privilege right now of basically watching this video and being able to prepare when nobody is panicking. Now, if you just take a few simple steps, like I outlined in the Age of Anomaly, then you can have asymmetrically high returns. If you wait until everyone else starts panicking, then you can have the smartest economist in the world by your side, and there will be little he can do to help you. So my message to people is this. Understand that some truly terrible things from a financial perspective are coming, but there's little point in being depressed or being panicky about it. No, instead, arm yourself with knowledge, understand the situation we are in right now, and most importantly, do something to protect yourself, do something to protect your family. If you take action now, I firmly believe that in the long run, you're going to be very well. Just please, if you're to take just one thing away from this conversation, it's the importance, I cannot stress enough, of doing something right now, of closing this browser tab after this interview is done and just asking yourself, okay, what specifically am I going to do? If I can get you guys to do that, then I would consider it a huge victory.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Andrei. It's a pleasure having you here. I look forward to the whole internet talking about your book when it finally is available on shelves, because it really is one of those books that I highly recommend everyone watching this should check out. So Andrei, thanks for being on the channel, and I look forward to having you on again.
Have an awesome day, guys. Take care.